Guys, that was one crazy Sunday. So let's go ahead and recap all the games that happened yesterday, because it honestly, breaking this down, I mean, we're getting to some crazy stuff. So starting off right away, yes, we started off with a pretty decently normal Thursday night game between the Cowboys and the Saints. I mean, I think everyone watching this video right now kind of expected the Cowboys to get this dub here. Taysom Hill's first start, and to be honest, it wasn't as bad as I thought his first start would be. I mean, he did go ahead and throw some interceptions, 4 interceptions total, which is never a good thing. But overall wise, I mean, he still had 264 yards. He still scored 2 touchdowns, and he had 101 yards on the ground. So he's giving that more mobility type angle, something that Trevor Siemian never gave them. And he also, of course, is taken away from rushing attempts from Mark Ingram. But overall wise, it does show if moving forward it is Taysom Hill as the starting quarterback, Deontay Harris is really going to be molded into something, because he was definitely the number 1 target for Taysom Hill in this contest. For the Dak Prescott and the boys, I mean, 238 yards, a touchdown, interception for Dak Prescott looks pretty average. Zeke Elliott actually got more carries than Tony Pollard, but Tony Pollard was more effective with a touchdown. And CeeDee Lamb, overall wise, definitely kind of regathered his, stance of being the best player in Dallas wide receiver wise. I still love Amari Cooper, I still love Gallup, but I think it's really going to be 100% all CeeDee Lamb moving forward. And honestly, how it really should be. With that being said, though, let's go ahead and talk about the top performers of the week. We have, of course, George Kittle, who had 181 yards and 2 tutties. Absolute monster this week. We had Justin Jefferson, 182 yards and a tutty. Deontay Johnson, 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. Chris Godwin, 143 yards. T. Higgins, 138 yards and a touchdown. 129 yards and a touchdown for Cooper Kupp. And obviously, Jonathan Taylor, who went off with 143 yards and 2 touchdowns, while Javonte Williams had 102 yards and also had a 76-yard receiving touchdown. So, very interesting. Our next slate of games we have here is the Giants at the Dolphins. Now, big thing about this game, of course, was there was no Danny Dimes, no Daniel Jones in this contest. It was a backup quarterback, which you might know of, and his name is Mike Glennon. 187 yards, 23 for 44. Saquon Barkley, only 11 carries in this contest, 55 yards. And Evan Ingram led him with 61 yards, so not too sexy. Tua Tagovailoa had 244 yards and 2 touchdowns, so it looks like Jacoby Brissett's day is done in Miami, and now it's back to being his team. Jalen Waddle, 90 yards through the air, so the rookie looking pretty dang good. Myles Gaskin, 44 yards on the ground and 62 yards for Devontae Parker. So it looks like Miami is kind of getting back into that, good grip of things. And I'll definitely say, with the playoff picture now being what it looks like, I mean, we're really seeing a lot of teams, truly come into form. And I'm definitely going to say right now, I mean, Ravens, obviously we lost last night to the Steelers, and never a sexy thing being a football fan and your team loses to a team that we definitely should have beat. I mean, at the end of the day, no shout at Steelers fans, but we should have won that game, and we took the L, man. We definitely took the L in that game. But with that being said, though, let's go ahead and pull up the playoff picture for you guys, because we are kind of now getting into that, area. So we had the Patriots number 1, and again, they play Buffalo tonight, so we'll see how that goes. Then we had the Tennessee Titans number 2. Then we have Baltimore number 3, and then we have Kansas City number 4, Bills number 5, Chargers number 6, Bengals number 7. We have in the hunt right now the Steelers, the Colts, the Raiders, the Browns, and the Broncos, and the Dolphins right there in the hunt. And then the Jets are just on the outside cusp looking, thinking that they had a chance, but, they don't really have a chance. Arizona leads the NFC with the Packers, the Bucks, the Cowboys, the Rams, the Washington football team, and the 49ers, with the Eagles on the cusp. Vikings, Carolina Panthers, Atlanta Falcons, Saints, and New York Giants. So a lot of teams really just on that cusp of having a chance to do something special. But the Colts, like I said before, yesterday was all Jonathan Taylor's show as they absolutely blew out the Houston Texans, a team that the, Titans really couldn't blow out. So, again, like I said, the Colts are on that cusp right now, and they could definitely take over. 158 yards for Carson Wentz and a touchdown. But to be honest, it's Carson Wentz is pretty much nothing at this point, and it's all Jonathan Taylor. 32 carries, 143 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I'll say it like this, right? Because when Jonathan Taylor against the Bucs had 0 carries in the third quarter, they lost that game. I think the Colts are starting to realize this. If you want to win the game, you got to give Jonathan Taylor the ball a billion times in the game. You can't. This is Jonathan Taylor's show, and that's pretty much that. There is nobody else who's going to win you that game but Jonathan Taylor. Michael Pittman's amazing. I do like Carson Wentz right now, but overall wise, it is all Jonathan Taylor. All right, so the Lions got their first dub of the season versus Kirk Cousins and the Vikings. And if you look at the stat line, I mean, Kirk Cousins, 340 yards, 2 touchdowns. Alexander Madison, 90 yards in a score. Justin Jefferson, 182 yards in a touchdown. You would think that the Vikings absolutely blew out the freaking Lions in this contest. You would think in every way possible the Lions got absolutely blown out with how many great stats we see on the side of the ball for the Vikings. But 296 yards and 3 touchdowns for Jared Goff, 71 yards on the ground for Jamal Williams, and 86 yards through the air, and a touchdown for Amon-Ra St. Brown. And again, like I said, you look at those stats and you're really just like, oh my God, the Vikings absolutely demolished them, right? No, they lost. They lost this game. Absolutely devastating for a Vikings fan because you guys were 5-6 on the cusp of that playoff berth, and you guys still are, but now you guys are in the mix with like 17 other teams. Or because, again, like, hey, Ravens did too. You almost did it. We almost threw the game to the Lions. You guys lost that game, and the Lions get their first dub of the season. GG to the Lions. I mean, I guess the Lions fans probably unhappy now because you guys won a better draft pick, but at this point, I don't think you guys are going to get a second win in the season, so you guys pretty much already have that first round draft pick. Eagles at Jets. Eagles get it done again and are really solidifying themselves into this playoff run. Gardner Minshew, 242 yards and 2 touchdowns for the Eagles. No Jalen Hurts, so it's a Gardner Minshew show. 120 yards on the ground for Miles Sanders. Dallas Goedert, 105 yards and 2 tutties. The Jets still look pretty decent even in this loss. I mean, 226 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception for Zach Wilson. 77 yards through the air and a touchdown for Elijah Moore. And Tevin Coleman, 58 yards. So not a bad day for the Jets, even though they did lose this contest. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, they still got the job done. They still fought hard in this contest. They lost, but they still fought hard. Cardinals at Bears. Kyler Murray's return. Yeah, this was quite the interesting affair as Kyler Murray only had 123 yards through the air with 2 touchdowns, but his real value came with the 59 rushing yards for 2 touchdowns too. James Conner gets hurt in this game, now probably out for the season. Andy Dalton is solidifying himself why you should not start him over Justin Fields because 229 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. David Montgomery, 90 yards and a touchdown, but that's pretty much it for the Bears. And honestly, Justin Fields is your future. Go back to Justin Fields. The Bengals, they tried to get it done versus the Chargers, and the Chargers just simply went back to, listen, we're a playoff team. So, Justin Herbert, 317 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Austin Eckler, 59 yards and a touchdown. Mike Williams, 110 yards, no touchdowns on 7 targets. This guy is absolutely back. We are ready to see him go off again. And surprisingly enough, Keenan Allen only had 34 yards, but he did have 2 touchdowns. For Joe Burrow, 300 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Joe Mixon, 54 yards in a score. And T. Higgins led the team with 138 yards and a touchdown. Not much from Jamar Chase, surprisingly enough. Atlanta versus the Bucks. I think this point spread going into this contest was a lot bigger than a lot of people wanted. And you know what? To be honest, it made a lot of sense because we thought the Bucks were going to blow this team out. And they only won by 13 points. Brady, though, 368 and 4 tutties. while throwing 143 of those yards to Chris Godwin and 99 to Mike Evans, 2 touchdowns to Rob Gronkowski. For Matt Ryan, 297 yards, Cordell Patterson, 78 yards on the ground, and Russell Gage, 130 yards through the air. Man went off in that game. All right. We have the Rams blowing out Jacksonville, and this was on one of those games you kind of just expected to happen, especially the Rams doing bad as of late. Trevor Lawrence, 145 yards passing, 62 yards to Laquan Treadwell. That was pretty much all of that because it was all Rams all day. 295 yards and 3 tutties. Sonny Michel, 121 yards and a touchdown. Cooper Kupp, 129 yards and a touchdown. Absolute just blowout by the Rams. GG to the Rams getting the W there. Washington beats the Raiders when the Raiders try to go for 2 to tie it at the end of the game. End of the game, the Raiders score a touchdown, try to go for 2 to tie it, and Washington's defense stops them, so they're not able to tie the ball game. So Washington wins here and improves to 6-6 on the season. Taylor Heineke, 196 yards and 2 touchdowns. Tony Gibson, 88 yards on the ground. Logan Thomas is out for the season now, but he had 48 yards and a touchdown in his last game. Derek Carr, 249 yards. Josh Jacobs, 52 yards and a tutty. And Hunter Renfrow, 102 yards in this contest. So definitely still a very good last game right there. Ravens at Steelers. Ravens, for the most part of this game, had this game completely under control, being up 13-3 going into the fourth quarter. But sadly, Pittsburgh did go ahead and rally back. And at the end of the day, it came down to we lost Marlon Humphreys for the season. It was a play at the we went for 2 with 20 seconds left because we literally had no corners. Like, Marlon Humphreys out for the season. Other than Marlon Humphreys, we have no other corners in the back, so we couldn't go to overtime. We'd have lost in overtime. We probably lost before the game regulation even expired. So we went for 2 trying to go for the W, and we lost. So Lamar Jackson overthrew Mark Andrews. That did not get a 2-point conversion. What a lot of people are missing on that play was that he had TJ Watt in his face. So that's a big reason why he overthrew the ball. Lamar Jackson, 253 yards, a touchdown and an interception. Lamar Jackson, 55 yards on the ground. Marquise Hollywood-Brown, 55 yards through the air. For the Steelers, 236 yards and 2 touchdowns for Big Ben. 71 yards on the ground for Najee Harris. And Deontay Johnson, 105 yards and 2 tutties in that contest. Next game we have here is the 49ers versus the Seahawks. And this was quite the interesting affair as the Seahawks got a W. Whereas they were 3-8 and now they're 4-8. And this does hurt the San Francisco 49ers playoff chance. But almost 300 yards for Jimmy G in this contest. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Elijah Mitchell, 66 yards and a touchdown. And George Kittle, 181 yards and 2 tutties. But he comes up short in this contest. Not what you want to see. Russell Wilson, 232 yards, 2 touchdowns. Adrian Peterson scored now with the Seahawks. 68 yards and a touchdown for Tyler Lockett. So then we had our Sunday night affair between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Denver Broncos. And as the Broncos threw a pick 6 in this game, it was just not really too wonderful for the Denver Broncos at all. 257 yards and a touchdown, 2 interceptions for Teddy B, one of them being a pick 6. Javonte Williams, 102 yards and no touchdowns. And Jerry Jeudy led the team with 77 yards through the air. For the Chiefs, 184 yards for Patrick Mahomes, 54 yards for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Darrell Williams led the team receiving. So it's kind of interesting here. The top 2 receiving options for the Chiefs were both the running backs, and the top 2 options for the Broncos was the wide receiver and the running back. So it was a messy, messy game. And now we have what should be the most interesting game of the season. Patriots at Buffalo. So the reason why this is such an interesting game is because of the fact that this will decide the number 1 seed in the NFL. Not only that, this will also go ahead and be an interesting game because it is a really bad weather game. I mean, you have the top two defenses, number 1 and number 2 defense, versus one another with a awful weather game. So you got to deal with the weather being absolutely a mess. It's overall going to be just one of those interesting type games. And I will say this game could end with it being 10-7. Guys, tell me down below your thoughts and opinions. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.